So I've been trying to upload multiple videos for a while now, but then my computer was like, no! So I was pretty much screwed for a while. And since I'm fairly certain my next video is going to be the worst hits of 2018, I could really use some positivity. So to do that, I'm going back to my personal favorite year in music, 2015. I loved this year. Maybe it's just because it's the first year I got into music, but I really don't think the quality and variety was matched in any other year this decade. The big charting hits had a good balance between the lighter, popular side of the early 2010s and the darker hip-hop influence of what we have now. And the underground produced a ton of phenomenal music too, having an abundance of both classics and underrated gems across the board. Even the bad songs this year weren't too bad compared to just how toxic some of the music scene has been more recently. It wasn't a perfect year, but this top 20 was great enough to launch this idea of combining retro lists with top 20 ranked videos. After all, they've both been done individually by everyone else, so why not combine the two? I'll still do regular seasonal lists sometimes, but I want to make this a thing, because a lot of the time the top 20 is just so boring nowadays. But anyways, here's a super obvious pick for the bottom spot.
I never fucked Wayne, I never fucked Drake. All my life, man, fuck's sake.
Yeah, this one's not looked back on too fondly, and I can see why. Though it's not really as anger-inducing as much as it's just kind of flimsy and pathetic. I mean, there are 4 people on this track, and exactly 0 of them contribute anything of value. Chris Brown's hook tries to be ominous and creepy, but falls flat on its face because its foundation is a tuned wine glass clink, along with what I assume are weird animal noises. Lil Wayne sounds half asleep the first half of his verse, and on the other half he starts screeching for no reason. Nicki Minaj's verse is bloated with puns so bad. And then there's Drake's verse, which, to put it bluntly, hurts my soul. She was sitting down on that big butt, but I was still staring at the titties, dog. Nope, that's it. I'm out. You can't make me. Nope. Taylor Swift is not only a gifted performer and writer, he's also one of the most significant and important pop stars of the current decade. And 1989 was a really solid album, so it's a shame that pretty much all of her number 1 hits range from mediocre to just sucking. And sadly, this was no exception. The song tries to be upbeat and fun, but just comes across vapid and annoying. The horns sound cheap, the vocal delivery is too jumpy for its own good in a really annoying way, and the marching band feel of the track just feels so stiff and obnoxious, much like Taylor Swift herself on this track. This was the first sign of Taylor's bitter, petty, and immature ineptitude when it came to drama and criticism, and I normally wouldn't care about that if it wasn't the biggest flaw of her entire career. While this isn't the worst example, it's still really unpleasant to revisit. Oh yeah, and the bridge gives me a migraine. This one's just a slog to get through. I like Ellie Goulding for her unique voice, her adaptability, and generally good production backing her, but this just throws all that out the window. Ellie's performance sounds tired and poorly layered, with her extended vocals piling on top of each other, never given a moment to breathe. And the phony elegance of the production is even worse, as it's dull and plodding the whole way through, along with the thumping percussion that doesn't remotely fit in with the lush vibe they're trying to go for. This was a disappointment, but then again, what was I really expecting from the soundtrack of Rule 34, the movie? Bland, spineless, forgettable. A shell of a song. The doo-wop influence is weak, and it never really picks up any steam. It just starts at square one and stays there the whole way through. It's easily the least essential song on this list by far, and I have nothing else to say about it, so moving on. This is white radio fodder. Like, really white. It's pretty much inoffensive fluff at its core, only with a falsetto so high I think it broke physics and was on the 40th octave on the piano. Shawty, I don't mind if you dance on a pole. This is a weird song. Usher has charisma as usual, and the 2-track beat is soothing enough. But I don't know, I feel like a strip club anthem with crowd chants and Juicy J yelling at random points in the track. Should have a bit more oomph to it, you know? It just feels mismatched and kind of off. I mean, it's basically a lullaby. Usher is usually more interesting and focused than this, both this and last decade. This one's just eh. I don't have much to say for this one. I can see why it annoys some people, but I don't see too much wrong with it. It's basically just Megan's usual doo-wop sound enhanced with additional energy and better production. And that's all I really need to give it a pass. Not great, but not bad either. Hey look, a joke song that's actually funny. Nowadays, memes explode and die out so quickly that it's nearly impossible to get any legitimately funny music anymore. For every Mom's Not Hot, we get like 10 Gucci gangs and it gets old really fast. And I think the key element we're missing here is this. There's being funny, and then there's trying to suck as much as physically possible. Coco's not so terribly basic and brain dead to the point where it surpasses amusing and just starts being stupid. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is dumb, but it's specifically a thing about nonsense and cocaine that can be misinterpreted into being about hot cocoa. And that's alright with me. It has its own unique concept. So yeah, props for an actually funny meme song. It's not higher because the joke wears off after a while, and it also goes on for 4 minutes, which just, why? But other than that, it's fine enough. This is another one I feel is pretty underrated, honestly. Nick Jonas has always been a very good performer in my eyes, and this is no exception, which makes up for quite a bit. And the detailed percussion and all-around aesthetically pleasing production suits him very well. The main reason this turns people off are the lyrics and how bitter and petty they come across. And while that is true to an extent, I see it more as how much Nick loves his girlfriend that was said in a way that could have been worded better. Some of the lyrical choices admittedly do hold it back a little bit, but the tone is so light and happy, and Nick Jonas is such a strong and compelling performer that I can't really get too angry at this. Sure, it's nowhere near as good as Chains, Levels, or countless other singles, but I can tolerate it. This one grew on me considerably over the years. If I could describe this in one word, it'd be authentic. The rugged and aggressive performances from both Rihanna and Kanye, along with the acoustic guitar-based instrumental, really catch you off guard for a mainstream pop song. Made even weirder by having an organ solo sandwiched in between the brittle guitar textures. But in a way, the unorthodox nature of the song is what makes it work so well. The instrumental variety really works with the basic campfire feel it goes for. With how short the song feels, as well as how much heart both performers give, it doesn't feel like there's any empty space despite its rather narrow sound. It never needs a stronger foundation. It's a solid effort and a distinct one at that. Baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. I know some people don't like this one for being corny or sappy or whatever, but personally, I reserve that criticism for songs like Shape of You and Galloway Girl, neither of which have held up well as they're both mediocre, poppy, sleaze-filled gunk that doesn't fit Ed Sheeran whatsoever. Thinking Out Loud, on the other hand, while not his best as it lacks the ambition of some of his other work, is still a good song in my opinion. The writing is adorable with just enough odd lines to make it stand out, with a very pleasant, laid-back instrumental to support the heartfelt performance and pretty spot-on backing vocals. True, it's a bit of a safe pick, but it works as a slow song that's perfect for a mellow setting, and that's good enough for me. This is the side of 1989 that I'm glad got traction. It's not Taylor's best, but it is a very admirable depiction of her stereotypical character, presented in a way that almost feels meta or like she's acting the part. Normally some of these lines would be a red flag for me with how insufferably melodramatic they are, but that's kind of the point here, as this is essentially a self-parody, reflected by the smoggy and bleak yet like reflection-sounding beat that dominates the track. The rest of the instrumental is also pretty solid, with the deep synths and heavy guitars. But ultimately, I like the concept of the song more than anything else, and it comes across in a very artsy yet self-aware way, which results in a very good listen. Yep, 8 songs in the great tier. This year was pretty great. I feel like Pitbull was uncarefully kicked off the radar because DJ Khaled replaced him as the really shallow but likable party guy everyone just kind of likes having around, and I'd take Pitbull over Khaled any day. This is basically just a better version of Give Me Everything from 2011. Simple and very likable sentiment, jubilant atmosphere, and by far the best part being the incredible hook and bridge from Neo, who's so talented and smooth that he could be singing about how bad I am at pool and I'd still love it. Great track. This is proof of how great Sam Smith can really be. I'm personally not a fan of the songs that made him a household name like Stay With Me and Too Good at Goodbyes, because they're just kind of bland and emotionally stagnant, whereas this song feels much more subdued and intriguing, not to mention a lot more emotionally compelling. The energy level hasn't changed much, but it's really the little things that matter here, like the vocal delivery being spot on the whole way through, instead of wasting all the effort on the chorus, which for Sam Smith just makes it sound uneven and overdone. The lyrics about his cheating spouse really work with his vocal conviction sounding saddened and betrayed, yet still delivered with poise and moderation. And I just enjoy the feel of this song, being played in the background of a fancy bar alone in the middle of the night. It just really appeals to me. This one's just a plain gorgeous pop song. Grande's smooth vocals and incredible range sounds great as usual. Her chemistry with The Weeknd gives both of them very interesting personalities in the context of this song, both of them being innocent or nervous toward each other, but with a very apparent sexually charged backbone to both of their performances that complement the tone. And the production has this lovely swooning build-up followed by these deep rushing synthesizers that just explode during the chorus without hindering the soft and lush atmosphere. Now excuse me while I try to figure out how to get the sweetener cover to face right side up. No, that's not. No, wait.
I don't fuck with you. You little stupid ass bitch, I ain't fucking with you.
Big Sean is one of those artists I like, but I'm also painfully aware of his flaws. Because on the one hand, he has really quirky and entertaining personality that shines through on more than a few tracks, and has fairly tasteful and impactful production backing him as well. But on the other hand, he's dropped the ball more than a few times, whether it be for cause of whack lines, uncompelling melodies, bland performances, or just... Having said all that, I personally think his gigantic middle finger of a song is pretty sweet. DJ Mustard's beat is easily one of his best because the synth actually stands out in addition to being catchy. Big Sean acts as a great hype man who, while a bit whiny at times, is made up for by E40's killer verse that totally restores the momentum. Plus, it's just a really satisfying listen. Trust me, I know.
I don't fuck with you.
There's a reason this was the biggest hit of the year. Yeah, it is kind of the quintessential song for bar mitzvahs and weddings, but it earns that title with grace, and it's still a great song regardless. It's a super polished, tasteful, and textured funk throwback with loads of infectious energy. Mark Ronson's variety of horns, guitars, synths, and backing vocals that almost resemble a men's quartet all bounce off each other and perfectly portray the era they're based off of gloriously. Bruno Mars is one of his best performances to date on this and rides this joy wave of a song effortlessly with a seemingly endless supply of charisma. Maybe it's just because it wasn't overplayed for me like it was for everyone else, but I still love it to this day. The fact that this became a hit at any time is a miracle within itself. Hozier is an insanely talented guy whose latest EP I will be talking about in my best of 2018 overall list, and that's just a fraction of his work. His debut is absolutely phenomenal, combining gospel and religious imagery with unprecedented skill. Oh, and his voice is just amazing too. Take Me to Church isn't the best song off his debut, but it is arguably the most definitive one. The huge drums, the heavenly yet haunting vocals, the solemn tone and daunting imagery coming together beautifully. And of course that gigantic chorus blowout that gives me chills down my spine every time I hear it. All of it is so heavy and bleak, but so rewarding regardless. Someone as obscure and daring as Hozier getting a number 2 hit proves just how good a year 2015 was, and it still holds up incredibly well. I've been a Fall Out Boy fan for a while now, as I can enjoy a great number of their tracks for their roaring guitars, great melodies, and Patrick Stump, who's a beyond powerful lead singer. Even their songs that were practically designed to suck turned out good, just out of sheer talent from the guys. But even as a fan, I don't think I've ever heard a song this thunderous and exciting from them. Extended vocals usually bother me, but Patrick killed his performance here as he builds up this behemoth of a climax that never diminishes from start to finish. That's just it. Most rock songs have a solid build-up and explosive chorus, but this is just Fall Out Boy at their ongoing peak the whole way through, and for a band that basically relies on power, that's only a good thing. I wish we could get more flaming rock songs in the charts like this one, because this is awesome, and yet... Yup, this list got topped by Selena Gomez, and that statement shouldn't be nearly as polarizing as it is. Yeah, her voice is a bit too thin for its own good, and her range and abilities are fairly limited, especially when singing live, but I also think she can work very well off very involved, full-sounding production, and when given the proper tools can have a lot of emotional impact and harmonizations that make for some pretty great music. Which is why I think her collabs with The Scene are usually solid. But it's not like she's never held her own on a song either, because this is about as perfect as you can get for a post-breakup song. The lyrics are heartbroken and damaged yet grounded, the vocals hit every note with pinpoint precision, and the production is gorgeously melancholic with a warbly, shadowy, and spacious atmosphere. The acknowledgement of how uncertain this relationship is may seem minuscule, but it adds a thick layer of catharsis and bleakness that goes a long way. It's my favorite song on this list, which totaled 39 points. Considering the average would be 0, that's pretty impressive. Worst list is probably coming next, so be ready for that.